Well, Star Wars is dying. I don't think that's a very controversial statement to make. Star Wars has been on a noticeable decline for the past few decades, and not only are general audiences starting to give up on the franchise, but also superfans are starting to feel it's no longer worth seeing. How could a franchise that's made $51.8 billion possibly be dying off, you say? How could a franchise as engraved into pop culture as Star Wars possibly be fading into irrelevancy? Let's take a look and find out for ourselves. Star Wars has been a part of pop culture and movie history for decades now. It's not even a competition. Even if you're not a fan of the franchise like I am, you still know everything about it. You know Luke, you know Darth Vader, you know their relationship, you know Yoda, you know lightsabers, you know the Force, and of course, you know the music. This franchise has quite literally changed history several times. Yet despite its humongous place in history of film, it's hard to not notice that Star Wars has slowly been fading into obscurity for the past few years now. So, why is that? Well, after going after some research, there's a few key factors I turn to for this conclusion. So let's start it off with the biggest cause being Disney's acquisition of the brand back in 2012.
Mine now! You belong to me! You're not gonna have your mommies run behind you anymore and wipe your little douches! No more complaining, no more Mr. Kimball have to go to the bathroom, nothing! There is no bathroom!
I feel it's fair to say that Disney has been both the worst and best thing to happen to Star Wars, as now this brand has had a ginormous supporting system behind it, and with this comes a new wealth of opportunities that open up for them overnight because of this acquisition alone. Hell, it's because of Disney that Star Wars' first movie in nearly a decade, Force Awakens, made over $1 billion at the box office. Disney was bringing Star Wars back with a new trilogy, theme park attractions, and even shows in the works. It was a great time to be a Star Wars fan. Or at least it should have been. Although Disney helped make Star Wars relevant again, they didn't really have much of an idea of how to handle such an influential brand. Their new trilogy of movies, although financially successful, lacked the very thing every series needs, and that thing is consistency. With The Force Awakens being an average movie at best, The Last Jedi either being regarded as the best thing in Star Wars or the absolute worst thing in Star Wars. Seriously, you had to be there to see the huge hate for this movie it had around it. So much that the constant debates, and even go on today, is what kept the movie successful in my opinion. Then you had Rise of Skywalker, a film with the same director as Force Awakens but couldn't capture what made the brand great, and leaving a sour taste in everyone's mouth. For Disney's first few movies, none of the sequels were even above average, and thus that's one of the things that leads to the decline of Star Wars, and that's despite all the resources they were given from Disney, they still can't make something good, with only a handful of gems being in there among the rest of the poorly written and directed schlock. And this leads me directly into my next topic, and that's the shows. Ever since Disney Plus has come around, there has been an influx of content from Star Wars and Marvel, and I'd argue that this overload of content is the reason for both falling into obscurity over the years. Star Wars started off strong with The Mandalorian, a spaghetti western take on the IP that was really quite good, with the new direction of Jon Favreau being separate from the previous and feeling unique, and that it had its own identity and didn't just rely off the brand alone. Something fresh to a franchise that's always clinged onto the past, and everyone saw it and they just loved it. But then this passion turned to greed very quickly, with the next show being Book of Boba Fett. A character, although popular, let's be real, didn't need a series, and had very little care poured into it. That only memorable episodes were the one with the Mandalorian, not even Boba Fett himself. And then soon after that came Obi-Wan Kenobi. Again, a popular character, but one who didn't need a show. And when he got it, it was poorly made, with the only ounce of quality being Darth Vader, and even he isn't as menacing as he has been before. Then came a sign of hope with Andor. A genuinely well-crafted show that had a story to tell, with characters who they could just do something different with, just like The Mandalorian. But it was too little too late, as these shows are a clear sign that the brand is in capable hands. With all these shows coming out within the span of only 2 to 3 years. Like, damn, that's way too much. They came out so often that the magic and appeal of The Mandalorian quickly died off, as now it's less special, since it feels like there's a new show every week. It's made fatigue hit faster, and alongside it being locked to Disney Plus means it will do less numbers than if it was a movie, let's say, considering only a few people buy and pay for Disney Plus compared to going to see a film for just once. It's sort of like Disney have region locked Star Wars, and now they just feel like more products than they do actual things made with passion. And with the majority being poorly made, that overload of content just makes the audience no longer care, and it's only getting worse with Ahsoka, a popular character in the fandom, being given a show finally, and yet no one cares. No one cares. That's gotta be a sign that you're doing something wrong, and Disney hasn't learnt their lesson, as the franchise is still steaming ahead with no clue for a vision or even a need to make more. And the ones who are suffering are us, the fans. But you might be asking me, how could Disney possibly change this and make the brand big once again? Well, believe it or not, I think it's quite easy. Yeah, I feel it's surprisingly easy to fix this, and Disney could just do 3 easy steps to get Star Wars back on the right track. The first thing Disney should do is slow down. Their biggest problem is fatigue among general audiences because they've been given too much stuff. It's like if you were to have your favorite food every day for the rest of your life. You'll have it so much it will no longer taste good. It no longer is good to you because now you've had it too much and it's just stale and boring. So Disney should space their projects out. Have shows release 1 to 2 years apart. When it does happen, it feels more special and less like just the norm. That helps make these things more of an event than just casual, and actually builds up hype. The second thing Disney should do is experiment. They should do what Andor did, and take a more unknown characters or new ones and have fun with them. So we're not just constantly recycling old characters and storylines. Branch out into other timelines. This world is so large that you can make so much about it. You have an infinite well of stories here. You don't have to make it about the war itself. Hell, you could make it a sitcom, a documentary styled show, or even a survival movie in Star Wars canon. There's so much more to explore outside the war itself, and I know it can be done because the comics have gone with this so many times. They've gone into more wild and outlandish stories that don't just involve the war itself, and it's great. Seeing Darth Vader in the wilderness all alone, that's a whole movie in of itself right there. And the final thing Disney should do is the most obvious one, obviously. Make them good. Get directors with a new vision, bring people in who have a story to tell, and give them restrictions, so they have to get creative, and not only go for what's been safe for the past few decades. This alone would make Star Wars great again by simply making everything you make to the best it can be. There is so much I could talk about with this franchise, but I want to stop here. I'm not a big fan of the brand in general. As a kid, Star Wars just never really appealed to me, so that's why I'm not a fan of the brand, but I have enjoyed aspects of this series with the original movies and Andor, along with some of the animated shows. So when I talk about this franchise, it's not out of place or bias against it, but as an account of everything I've seen and how it can improve. But what do you guys think? How would you improve Star Wars? Leave your thoughts in the comments and I'll pin the best one. It's been the Pink King. and I will see you all later.